Some gifts may look like love, but are actually traps in disguise. When you reach retirement, many expect you to hand over everything: your time, your energy, your savings, your health, even your voice. And the worst part is, you do it believing it will earn you a place in your children's hearts. But the truth, the one that hurts and sets you free, is that if you give away what you should protect, you could lose yourself in the process. This video isn't just another warning. It's a wake-up call. Because there are things you should never give away, no matter how much they insist, no matter how badly you want to please. And if you stay until the end, you'll uncover a truth that could completely change the way you live this stage of your life. It's not just the final lesson. It's the key to reclaiming your dignity and your dreams. I'm Gabriel, and today we're going to talk about what no one dares to say, but everyone needs to hear. Stay with me, because this could mark a turning point in your life. Have you ever wondered how many days of your retirement you've given away without even realizing it? I'm not talking about generous gestures, but about silent surrenders that emptied your schedule just to fill it with other people's commitments. Today, we're going to talk about the first point in this video, and perhaps the one most often overlooked by those who, like you, have spent their lives fulfilling, helping, always being available. Your time is not a handout. We live with the idea that once we retire, our lives become just another resource for others. Now that you have free time, you could help with the grandkids, take your sister to the doctor, handle the family paperwork, and you, having lived with an open heart and a strong sense of duty, accept without thinking twice. But what you don't see is that every time you give in, every time you postpone your own desires to answer someone else's call, you're giving away your time as if it were worthless, as if your life, being freer, had somehow lost its value. I don't say this to judge. I say it with the urgency of someone who has seen too many good men and women become a shadow of themselves because they confused being available with being loving. It's a subtle trick, and that's why it's so dangerous, because it doesn't hit you all at once. It builds up, like a rope that's pulled tighter and tighter, day after day, until one day it snaps, and it snaps inside you. A few years ago, I met a woman who told me, "Gabriel, I'm 69 years old, and I feel like I've never really lived for myself." I asked her why, and she said, "Because I've always been useful. For my kids, for my husband, for my mother, for my neighbors. Now that I'm alone, I don't know what I want to do. I don't even know what I like." Her confession cut right through me. And maybe, if you're hearing this, it sounds all too familiar. Because there's an entire generation that was trained to serve, but never taught to ask themselves what they want. And now that they finally can, they don't even know where to begin. The Stoics saw this clearly. Epictetus said, "Don't waste what's within your control by worrying about what isn't." And what is within your control, your time, your day-to-day, your decision to fill your hours with what nourishes you, not what drains you. And here comes the hardest part to accept. No one is going to defend your time if you don't. If you don't set boundaries, others will continue thinking it's fine to ask you for more. Not out of malice, but because you've convinced yourself there's nothing more important for you to do. And that's a lie. You have so much to do. You have a life to reclaim. Picture yourself as a well, deep, ancient, full of wisdom. If everyone comes to draw water, but you never take care to refill it, there will come a day when there's nothing left. Not for others, not for yourself. It's not selfishness. It's common sense. It's respect for who you are and who you still have the power to become. Your time is sacred. It's the closest thing you have to freedom. And giving it away mindlessly just to prop up other people's routines is a betrayal of yourself. Today is the first day to change that. to ask yourself what you want to do with your morning, your afternoon, your next week, and to dare to say, "I can't," without feeling guilty. Because protecting your time is protecting your soul, and no one else will do it for you. Let's keep going, because if you think this was intense, wait until you hear what happens when you give away your peace just to avoid conflict. That too can destroy you from the inside out. If the first mistake was giving away your time as if it were worthless, the second one is even more silent and even more destructive, because at least when you give up your time, you're aware of what you're sacrificing. But when you give away your peace to avoid conflict, you do it thinking you're preserving harmony, when in reality, you're silently planting seeds of resentment. We've reached the second key point of this video: don't give up your peace just to avoid conflict. How many times have you stayed silent about something that hurt you just to avoid upsetting others? How many times have you accepted something unfair from your children, your siblings, your neighbors, thinking that speaking up would ruin the relationship? And yet, here you are, with a heavy heart, a tight throat, and emotions piling up like a dam about to burst. It's that feeling of swallowing stones, one after another, until you just can't anymore. But no one notices because you've taught yourself to smile so you won't worry anyone. You were taught that avoiding conflict is a sign of wisdom, that staying quiet is maturity, that giving in is love. But what no one told you is that when peace is built on forced silence, it isn't peace at all. It's submission. And when a soul submits for too long, it begins to fade away. Seneca put it with brutal clarity: he who always gives in stops living his own life and starts living the lives of others. You didn't make it this far just to extinguish your inner fire for the sake of keeping a dinner table calm or a family gathering free of arguments. Behind this behavior is a deep fear of rejection. The fear that if you say what you really think, people will pull away, that your children will stop calling, that your friends will think you've become bitter, that your family will look at you like you're the problem. But the truth is, you can't control how others will react. You can only control whether you choose to live from your truth or from a need to please. Stoicism doesn't ask you to be cruel, it asks you to be free. And there's no freedom in a life ruled by the fear of upsetting others. Take a close look at your daily life. What conversations have you avoided? What discomforts have you accepted just to keep up the appearance of harmony? Maybe you stay quiet when someone makes a hurtful comment. Maybe you allow people to talk down to you, to treat you like an extension of their own lives. And you nod, you smile, you pretend nothing happened. But something did happen. It happened inside you. Because every time you give in to avoid discomfort, you betray yourself a little more. And after a while, you can't even tell where you end and others begin. In my experience, and in many stories shared with me through this channel, I've seen how giving away personal peace turns into illness, insomnia, anxiety, unexplained physical pain. It's not magic, it's biology. It's your body telling you that you're living out of alignment with your soul. Because true peace doesn't come from avoiding problems. It comes from facing them with calm strength, from being able to speak your mind with respect, but also with firmness, from being able to set boundaries without fear of ending up alone. Jesus himself said, "The truth will set you free." And the truth sometimes hurts, unsettles, stirs things up, but it also purifies. It also heals. It clears the air so you can breathe again. You are not at this stage of life to gather more silences. You're here to speak with a clear heart, to reclaim your dignity, and to show, by example, that peace isn't bought with self-renunciation. It's earned through courage. Next time something bothers you, don't swallow it as if it doesn't matter. Don't tell yourself, "It's better this way, no need to argue." Ask yourself if that peace is real or just a disguise, And if what you feel is injustice, speak up. You might not change the other person, but you will have changed yourself. You will have stopped giving away the most sacred thing you have, your inner calm. And if all of this stirs something deep inside you, just wait for what's next. Because in the next chapter, we're going to confront a very common emotional trap, giving away your money as if it were a proof of love. And that one can truly leave you with nothing, inside and out. After talking about what happens when you give away your time and your peace, it's inevitable that we reach the point that hurts the most once it's uncovered. The money you give away as if it were proof of love. We've arrived at the third point in this video, and this is where things can either start to change or start to break if you don't see it in time. There's a deeply rooted idea in many parents who have worked hard their whole lives. If I give my children everything I have, they'll value me more. They'll see me as generous, as someone worthy of respect and affection. But what usually happens isn't that. What usually happens is that when you give without limits, without conditions, without awareness, you're not building a stronger relationship. You're feeding a dynamic of dependence and devaluation that drains you both inside and out. Giving away your money, your property, your savings, believing it will secure your place in your children's hearts, is like trying to fill a bottomless well. It's never enough, and you end up empty too. The root of this behavior lies in a mix of guilt and fear. Guilt over what you couldn't give before. Fear of ending up alone if you don't keep giving now. But neither guilt nor fear are good advisors. Seneca said it plainly, true wealth is not having much, but needing little. And I would add, it's also not about giving thoughtlessly. True love isn't measured in money, signed deeds, or silent gifts. True love is nourished by respect, mutual care, and real presence. When you give money hoping for affection in return, you are confusing love with obligation, and no one loves out of obligation. The Stoic strategy here is simple but powerful. Before you give away anything valuable, ask yourself whether it strengthens your freedom or weakens it. Ask yourself whether, by doing so, you are affirming your dignity or giving in out of fear. And above all, start by giving to yourself, because you also need security, stability, and the chance to enjoy what you have built. What's the point of sacrificing for decades if you end up giving away the fruits of your labor without ever tasting them yourself? What sense does it make to live a life of sacrifice only to be left empty-handed while others benefit without even a word of thanks? Imagine you have a garden. You've cared for it with effort for years. Would you hand over your last flowers to someone who doesn't even bother to water them? Would you give the keys to someone who only shows up when they need shade, but never stays to share a quiet afternoon with you? Then why would you do that with your resources? It's not about becoming selfish. It's about understanding that giving without awareness turns into abandonment. Not their abandonment of you, your abandonment of yourself. And if this reflection is stirring something deep inside you, if you recognize your own story in these words, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and hit like. That way you help me keep creating content that, like this, is meant to awaken, not to numb. Tell me in the comments from which country you're listening, and write this affirmation if you feel part of this journey. My money is not a debt, it's part of my freedom. There are still important lessons to come, and I promise you, the last one can completely transform the way you see your future. Don't go anywhere. We're just beginning to open our eyes. After seeing what happens when you give away your money as if it were proof of love, the next mistake cuts even deeper. It doesn't touch your bank account, but it drains your energy, your health, and slowly, your sense of identity. We've reached the fourth point in this video, and it's one that often disguises itself as nobility or responsibility. Your health, is not a bargaining chip. There's a common trap among those who have spent their lives giving, believing that taking care of others is more important than taking care of themselves. That's saying yes to every external demand, helping with the grandkids, solving family conflicts, running endless favors, is a moral duty, even if it means forgetting to eat well, to rest, to move, or to have time for yourself. And the worst part is that this trap settles in subtly. No one tells you directly, sacrifice your body for others, but you feel it when you're praised more for always being available than for setting boundaries. You realize it when weeks have passed without a peaceful walk, but everyone around you has their needs met thanks to you. This idea that your body is at the service of others until it breaks down is not only false, it's destructive. Because when you ignore the signs your body gives you, when you normalize pain, fatigue, or insomnia, you're letting your temple fall into ruin. Yes, your temple. As the Stoics said, the body isn't the most important thing, but it is the instrument through which you practice virtue, presence, and serenity. A neglected body is like a house left to decay. Cracks appear, leaks spread, and eventually it becomes uninhabitable. And when that happens, you can no longer help anyone, live with dignity, or stay connected to what's sacred. I've met many older people who postpone their medical checkups because there are more urgent things, or who brush off their pain by saying it's just part of getting older. But that resignation isn't wisdom. It's abandonment disguised as maturity. Because taking care of your body isn't a youthful whim. It's an act of deep respect for yourself, your journey, and what you still have left to create. It's not vanity, it's gratitude. The problem is that we've confused sacrifice with virtue. We think that if something hurts, we must endure it. That if we're tired, we must keep going. That if we don't feel like it, we must stay silent and push through. But that's not Stoicism. A Stoic doesn't ignore his body. He listens to it, trains it, and puts it in service of what truly matters. He doesn't surrender to pain, but he doesn't deny it either. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly. It's not just living that we should value, but living well. And living well requires energy, presence, and daily care. When you don't make your body an ally, when you see it as a burden or a tool that can be worn out without consequences, you distance yourself from your own being. You stop feeling, you stop moving freely, you even stop thinking clearly because physical discomfort eats away at your mind too. And over time, you become someone who survives, but doesn't truly live. If you find it hard to put yourself first, think about this. How can you help others from a broken body? What's the point of being there for everyone if you can't even be there for yourself when you wake up each day? Your body doesn't need punishment. It needs to be heard. A gentle walk, a more mindful meal, real moments of rest. You don't need to make massive changes. You just need to come back home to yourself. Because while you're on this earth, your body is your vehicle, and it deserves to be treated with the same care you would give something sacred. So next time you're about to say yes to something that drains you, ask yourself if it's your body that will pay the price. If the answer is yes, then say no. Not out of selfishness, but out of the deepest self-respect. Because at this stage, taking care of yourself isn't a luxury. It's your most urgent responsibility. There's still a long way to go, and what's ahead demands that you be present, strong, and at peace. And what's coming next in this video will reveal an even more invisible trap, the one that makes you silence your truth just to please others. Don't miss it. We're not done yet. We're stepping into delicate territory now, but it's absolutely essential. Because if up until now we've talked about your time, your peace, your money, and your health, now it's time to address something that cuts across all of them: your identity. We've reached the fifth point in this video, and it's one of the most common and painful mistakes I see among older adults. Don't give away your inner voice just to please others. It's easy to miss when it starts. It begins with small silences, with words you hold back because you know they might make someone uncomfortable. A comment you don't make, an opinion you don't share, a desire you suppress so you won't seem bothersome, outdated, or out of place. You do it once, then again, and without realizing it, you start living out a script you didn't write. You become what you think others expect you to be: the peacemaker father, the quiet mother, the always available grandparent, the woman who never complains. And while everyone around you seems more comfortable, you start to fade. Because you're not living, you're acting, you're playing a part to be accepted when what you need most is to be heard. The problem with this pattern is that it traps you. The more you give up your voice, the less you recognize yourself. You become a stranger in your own life. And that brings frustration, suppressed anger, sadness you can't even trace. You feel invisible, but not because others don't see you, because you stopped showing up as yourself. And that's devastating, because your inner voice isn't just your opinion, it's your compass. It's what connects you to your story, your values, your faith. Silencing it is like sealing off the well of your soul and hoping the water will still flow. Can you reverse this? Yes, but not with a superficial change. It's not enough to speak up once and expect everything to fall into place. It's about rebuilding your inner authority, about remembering that your experience matters, that what you've lived isn't a museum piece, but wisdom worth sharing, that your perspective matters, even if others don't applaud it. Because speaking your truth isn't arrogance, it's dignity, and dignity isn't up for negotiation. The mindset you need to reclaim this is radical in its simplicity. Stop asking for permission to be yourself. You don't need approval to have an opinion. You don't need gratitude to express your discomfort. You don't need universal agreement to be faithful to what you feel. You can speak with respect, with calm, with firmness, but you must speak. Because every time you stay silent about something that matters, you give more power to fear. And fear, when it rules your life, turns it into a prison. Maybe you think it's too late, that you've been this way for too long, that others won't change the way they treat you, and you might be right. But you can still change how you treat yourself. You can reclaim your voice. You can start saying what you really think, even if it shakes the world around you a little. Because only those who dare to be uncomfortable for a moment can live in peace with themselves. You're not here to meet other people's expectations. You're here to finish your life being fully yourself. And that begins the moment you decide that your voice is not a gift for others. It's your legacy, your tool, your right. In the next chapter, we're going to dive even deeper into the danger of passing down your guilt as if it were part of your legacy. Stay with me. There are still truths we need to face together. If in the last chapter we talked about the danger of silencing your voice to please others, now we need to face something even deeper. Because there are those who, even after reclaiming their voice, still live under a weight that isn't theirs to carry, dragging past mistakes behind them as if they were inescapable chains. We've reached the sixth point of this video, and today it's time to talk about something that can sink you without anyone even noticing from the outside. Don't pass down your guilt or your traumas. I want you to picture this as clearly as possible. You're sitting at a long table, like those big family gatherings on Sundays. Across from you are your children, your grandchildren, important people from your life. But instead of bringing food or wine to the table, you place a heavy closed box in the center. Nobody asked you to, but you push it toward them. Inside are all the things you never said, the regrets you carry, the wounds that marked you, the mistakes you believe are unforgivable. And without even realizing it, you expect them to open it, to understand it, and to forgive you. But what you don't see is that the box isn't theirs to carry, and by handing it over, you don't free yourself. You just pass on the weight. Many parents do this without meaning to. They become overly permissive to make up for what they couldn't give. They drown in guilt over divorces, over working too much, over not being there for everything. And from that guilt, they give too much. They excuse the inexcusable. They cling to hurtful relationships. They punish themselves by growing old without dignity, all because, deep down, they believe they have to pay for the past. But let me be blunt, because no one else will tell you this so clearly. Guilt doesn't heal anything. It only keeps pain alive. It forces you to live looking backward, and there's no way to move forward with your neck twisted toward the past. Stoicism doesn't ask you to ignore your mistakes. It asks you to face them with responsibility, but without self-destruction. Epictetus said, "We cannot control what happened, only what we choose to do with it now." And if you choose to carry your traumas as if they were some inevitable legacy, all you'll do is pass down pain, insecurity, or dependency. Your children don't need you to crawl emotionally because of what you did or didn't do. They need to see you whole, at peace, with your head held high, not out of arrogance, but because you've made peace with yourself. Life is already hard enough without you punishing yourself for years on end. And if someone expects you to live in constant repentance for what you couldn't give, they don't truly love you. Because those who love set you free. And you, who may have made mistakes like everyone, also have the right to redemption. But that redemption doesn't come from others. It comes from you. From looking in the mirror and saying, "I did what I could. I did what I knew how to do. And now, instead of being trapped by the past, I'm going to build the kind of life I want to leave as my legacy." Staying trapped in guilt doesn't make you more human. It makes you less free. And the saddest part is that while you keep trying to atone through pain, life keeps moving forward. You miss new joys, new connections, new passions, all for a past you can no longer change. But you can heal, not by handing down guilt, not by passing on trauma, but by breaking the cycle, by deciding that your family story can end differently with you, not through sacrifice, but through awareness. And if this hurts, if it stirs something deep inside you, it's because it's real, because there's no time left to keep acting like you're in debt. You are not in debt, you are on a journey. And the final chapter of this video may just be the missing piece that makes everything come together. Stay with me. You'll want to hear it. If up until now we've dismantled the invisible traps that rob you of the present, guilt, a silenced voice, a neglected body, traded peace, money given without awareness, this final point is the most painful of all. Because it's not about what others take from you, it's about what you choose to bury yourself. We've reached the 7th point of this video, and it's time to face it with the brutal honesty it deserves. Don't throw away your dreams like old trash. At this stage in life, many people believe dreaming is no longer their place, that there's no time left to start anything new, that now it's only about supporting others' lives, standing on the sidelines, being useful where they can, and hoping illness doesn't arrive before oblivion does. But that resignation is not maturity, it's surrender. And giving up before you die is the quietest form of emotional suicide. How many dreams have you locked away because you thought they were ridiculous? How many times have you told yourself it's not worth it anymore? How many ideas have you buried because you thought your children wouldn't understand or others would laugh? That silence, that surrender, comes at a cost, a life lived halfway. I'm not saying this as some cheap motivational slogan. I'm saying it because I've seen it. I've spoken to men and women who, at 70, even at 80, decided to pick up something they left behind decades ago. Painting, writing, studying, learning an instrument, traveling alone for the first time, starting a garden, recording themselves reading stories, and not to achieve something grand, just to feel alive again, to remember there are still flames waiting to be rekindled if only you dare to breathe life into them. But that spark won't ignite if you keep telling yourself, "I'm too old for that." That phrase is the early epitaph of your vitality, and the worst part, no one else imposes it on you. You impose it on yourself. Seneca wrote, "As long as we breathe, we can learn." And I'll add this, as long as we breathe, we can truly live. But that requires you to take full responsibility for your present, to stop blaming your circumstances, your age, your children, your past. There's no time left for excuses. No one is coming to give you permission to dream. You have to take it yourself. Because every day you postpone what excites you, what moves you, what once made you imagine, is a day you will never get back. And it doesn't matter if what you try doesn't turn out perfect. It doesn't matter if no one else understands it. It doesn't matter if it's small or strange. What matters is that it's yours, that it belongs to you, that you do it with trembling hands but a steady heart. Because dreaming at this stage of life isn't immaturity, it's resistance. It's faith that your story isn't over yet. And I'm telling you this with all the strength this final message deserves. Your dreams are not old trash. They're the only thing that can save you from conformity, from apathy, from fear. They are your soul's voice asking for space. So look at the road you have left, not as a countdown, but as fertile ground. Don't bury the best parts of yourself just because others have stopped seeing you. See yourself again. Because if you don't give yourself permission to dream, no one else will. And a life lived in dreaming doesn't end. It transforms. Now you know. The choice is yours. If you've made it this far, it's no coincidence. Not everyone has the courage to look their life in the eyes and recognize what they've given away without thinking, what they've lost out of fear, or what they've silenced out of habit. But you have. You stayed until the last point, until the last truth, and that already sets you apart from the majority. Because while many prefer to live numb, you're starting to wake up. But don't be mistaken. Hearing this message isn't the end. It's the beginning of a responsibility. Now you know what you can no longer give away. Now you know what you must protect. And that's something you can't forget. You either face it or you deny it. But you can't go back as if none of this touched you. That's why I want to ask you for something very simple, but very symbolic. If this video stirred something in you, if it made you think, if it made you remember who you are and everything you can still become, leave this phrase in the comments. I don't bargain with my dignity, and tell me which country you're listening from, because I want to hear from you. I want to know you're there. Not as a passive spectator, but as someone who has decided to start taking control. That's the mission of this channel. I'm Gabriel, and this is the Stoic Garden. We're not here to pat you on the back or give you pretty speeches. We're here to say what others won't, to shake your consciousness and help those in the second half of life reconnect with their strength, their faith, and their inner power. If you value this content, if you feel it speaks to you directly and not from a place of condescension, subscribe right now. Not out of obligation, but out of choice. Join this community of people who don't want life to slip away through silence and excuses. People who want to think, feel, and act with clarity. And if you know someone who needs to hear these words, a friend, a sister, a father who's fading away in silence, share it. Because sometimes one truth said at the right time can save an entire life. And don't let the conversation end here. 2 more videos are about to appear on the screen. Choose one. Keep walking this path with me. Because this isn't just a channel, it's a place where brave souls come to remember that their story is still alive. and you are one of them.